Hello and welcome. Today's video provides practical, easy-to-use basics of the concept of identification as understood in the Fourth Way tradition. The aim of this video is to elucidate it so that you can begin discovering its presence in your own life. So reflect consciously on what is being said. This concept addresses the psychological and spiritual state where an individual loses themselves in their thoughts, emotions, and sensations, becoming completely absorbed and dominated by them. The person becomes so involved with their immediate experiences, thoughts, or emotions that they lose their sense of self-awareness and objective perception, and for many people, it is the normal state. It is characterized by a total absorption in the thoughts and emotions related to current moment or activity, to the extent that other perspectives or considerations are temporarily obliterated. Identification often involves an emotional disturbance or investment, where emotions like anger, fear, or excitement dominate the individual's psyche. This emotional involvement clouds judgment and perpetuates a cycle of reactionary behavior. For instance, anger might lead to actions that are later regretted once the person is no longer identified with that emotion. Negative emotions are closely tied to identification. Without identification, negative emotions lose much of their power. For example, fear can be intensified by identification, where the object of fear becomes exaggerated in importance. By detaching from identification, the emotional intensity diminishes, and a person can regain a more balanced perspective, understanding that the fear is not equivalent with reality. Identification also plays a role in the false personality, which is similar to the ego. False personality is a construct of identification. It is the image or persona that individuals create, often based on imagination and external influences. False personality thrives on identification, as people identify with the roles they play, the masks they wear, and the illusions they maintain about themselves. By studying and understanding false personality, individuals can work towards self-remembering and authentic self-awareness. Identification also affects interpersonal relationships. When individuals are identified, their interactions are influenced by their immediate emotional states and personal biases. This can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, and a lack of genuine connection. By observing and reducing identification, individuals can interact more authentically and empathetically. Gurdjieff emphasized that identification is a universal mechanism that contributes to keeping individuals in a state of psychological sleep. It is a fundamental obstacle to achieving higher states of consciousness and self-awareness. According to Gurdjieff, identifying is akin to being hypnotized by one's environment, thoughts, or emotions. To awaken from this hypnotic state, one must exert effort and engage in conscious struggle against identification. Social and cultural influences significantly contribute to identification. From a young age, people are conditioned by societal norms, family expectations, and cultural values. These external factors shape their identities and reinforce identification with certain roles, behaviors, and beliefs. For instance, societal pressure to succeed can lead individuals to identify strongly with their careers or achievements, often at the expense of their true selves and deeper fulfillment. The primary methods for combating identification are self-observation and self-remembering. Self-observation is the practice of impartially observing one's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without judgment. This practice helps individuals recognize when they are identified and provides an opportunity to detach from these automatic responses. By observing themselves, people can gain insights into the patterns and triggers of their identification, enabling them to interrupt these cycles and choose more conscious responses. Self-remembering involves maintaining a dual awareness of oneself and one's actions. It is the act of being present and aware of oneself while engaging in activities. This practice helps counteract identification by anchoring the individual in a broader sense of self that transcends immediate experiences and emotions. Gurdjieff often emphasized the importance of self-remembering as a tool for awakening and achieving higher states of consciousness. Non-identification is also a state of observing one's experiences without becoming absorbed by them. You can probably see a common thread here. Non-identification involves recognizing that thoughts, emotions, and sensations are transient and do not define the true self. Practicing non-identification allows individuals to experience life more fully and objectively without being swept away by temporary states. This practice can be cultivated through mindfulness, meditation, and other forms of inner work. These practices help individuals to detach from their automatic reactions and see their experiences from a higher perspective. We have a video on self-observation where we talk about the concept in more depth, and we'll make one about self-remembering shortly. But in the beginning, it's better to cultivate the habit of observing your thoughts, words, and actions, and self-remembering is a more elusive concept that has to be experienced. The first step to breaking free from identification is to learn to recognize when it's happening. Practical steps to overcome identification also include focusing attention on more important matters and consciously turning away from the immediate objects of identification. By prioritizing higher goals or values, individuals can reduce the influence of trivial or distracting identifications. Additionally, recognizing the destructiveness of identification and its role in perpetuating confusion and difficulty is crucial. Overcoming identification requires intentional struggle and effort. This struggle is against the automatic tendencies of the mind and emotions to become absorbed in immediate experiences. Gurdjieff taught that conscious effort, particularly in moments of identification, is essential for personal growth. This effort involves redirecting attention, questioning automatic responses, and consciously choosing how to engage with one's experiences. The primary objective of intentional struggle is not to overcome the tendencies within, but to shed the light of awareness on them. Developing willpower is crucial for overcoming identification. Will is the capacity to make conscious choices and act on them, even in the face of internal resistance. Strengthening willpower involves practicing self-discipline, setting and achieving small goals, and gradually building the ability to focus and be intentional in various aspects of life. As willpower grows, individuals become better equipped to resist the pull of identification and maintain a state of self-awareness and presence. The more you practice exercising willpower, whether you ultimately fail or not, the more the neural pathways associated with is connect and strengthen. To conclude, identification is a central concept in the Fourth Way teachings, highlighting the psychological and spiritual state where individuals lose themselves in their immediate experiences, thoughts, and emotions. Overcoming identification involves practices such as self-observation, self-remembering, and conscious effort, aimed at cultivating a state of continuous self-awareness and presence. By reducing identification, individuals can achieve greater personal growth, authentic relationships, and higher states of consciousness, ultimately reaching a fully awakened state, liberated from our habitual patterns of thinking, feeling, acting, and speaking.